Well, folks, Wayne Pivac is out and Warren Gatland is back in charge of Wales. This is the news that I woke up to this morning here in New Zealand. Wayne Pivac, after what was a pretty unsuccessful and uninspiring campaign in 2022, has been relieved of his duties, and the familiar face that is Warren Gatland is going to take over. We're going to go through some of the details of what's going on with Gats and just what happened. We're going to break down Pivac's numbers for 2022. I was going to kind of have a look at all the team's stats for 2022, but Wales's ones do stand out, so we'll go through some of those as well. And you guys can let us know whether you think Gats is the guy to turn things around. I think generally, from my reading of some Welsh social media, the response seems to be pretty positive, because Pivac, as I said, obviously wasn't getting the results. I think he finishes with like a 38% win record. They've only got a positive record against Italy in terms of Tier 1 nations. They lost to Georgia. They obviously lost to Italy in the Six Nations this year. Wasn't all doom and gloom. They did get a first away win in South Africa ever, and managed to get the Six Nations in 2021. But, those kind of bright spots were, sadly enough, surrounded by enough poor performances for the Welsh rugby bosses to act in giving him the flick. Now, obviously, Gats takes over. As I said, people, I think, are generally pretty happy to see Gats back. They know Gats has got a pretty successful record with Wales. But if I could just play devil's advocate for a moment, I mean, his more recent job with the Lions was kind of turgid. Like, nobody's looking back at that Lions tour, admittedly with all the COVID disruptions making it a pretty hard one. No one's looking back at highlights of that Lions tour, I think, and getting real excited about some of the rugby that was played. It was a bit of an ugly tour, and obviously the off-the-field drama kind of took away from some of the on-field stuff. There were moments, of course, but it wasn't exactly an inspirational one. And then Gats, with the Chiefs, essentially got promoted out of his job. He came back to New Zealand, started the coaching run with the Chiefs. It was going all right. Then COVID happens, lockdowns, get back into rugby with Super Rugby Aotearoa. His team goes like none from 8. They get 8 losses on the bounce. And then when he buggers off to go with the Lions, the replacement coach does remarkably better than Gats. So when Gats comes back after the Lions tour, as I said, they kind of promoted him from coach to director of rugby because, the results were better when he was away. So that's just me playing devil's advocate. I don't mean to rain on anyone's parade. As I said, I think people are pretty happy to get some kind of change, because what we have seen from Wayne Pivac's side this year, I'll get to the numbers in just 2 ticks, have been pretty bad. We're still going to find out what happens with the assistant coaches. I believe they're going to make a decision about them. Obviously, it'd be nice to get Sean Edwards back, but I think he's signed a big extension with the French Rugby Union. So, that's going to be one aspect that's missing from Warren Gatland's coaching staff. So, we kind of wait and see with that one. So, it's going to be change. I would imagine the results are going to get better because they've been pretty poor in 2022. Just looking at all the Tier 1 teams across 2022, like just some kind of key stats which you would like to do well in. Clean breaks. Wales are last. The least likely side to generate a clean break, just over 3 per game, whereas in 2021 they were getting over 5, so it's a big drop. Defenders beaten, they are second from last. The average across the two teams is 19. Wales gets 14. It's down from last year as well. Possession, Wales is last. I mean, possession's not the be-all and end-all, but sometimes it's nice to have the ball, but Wales have the least ball. Now, I do have to keep in mind that Wales toured South Africa, and South Africa liked to play with the ball at times, so South Africa had pretty good possession numbers, so that maybe influences Wales' stats across the year, but I'm just saying. Tackles, Wales are first. They have to make the most tackles because they got the least ball. 151 tackles a game, having to make a lot of defence. And yet somehow they finished the year with the least average turnovers won. I would have thought if you're on defence, making millions of tackles, kind of like the French do. The French kick the bloody ball away, tackle the house down, turn you over, and then hit you on the counter. That's kind of been their thing for a wee while. Wales are last for turnovers won, which just seems incredible. when you got some of the loose forwards, especially that you guys have got. I mean, I know it's tending to be the locks that are getting like Tyke Bird and Mara Toje and whatnot, getting all the turnovers in recent times. But yeah, I mean, Jack Morgan was getting some turnovers with him. Tame Basham, Justin Tipper, got some proper turnover merchants, but last for turnovers, most for tackles. That kind of doesn't compute. In my mind, last for average tries scored. I don't think they scored a single try this year from some kind of scrum, like set play. Most teams, I think, have pretty much all got a scrum set play, just cuts the opposition to bits. I don't think Wales did it this year. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think so. They're the only one of two sides in 2022 that has more tries from their forwards than from their backs. Just them and the Australians. Everybody else, including like South Africa, who aren't a side that gets enough credit for their backs, most sides score more tries through their backs, but Wales and Australia, it's the forwards getting more of the tries. I mean, Wales didn't score that many tries anyway, but they're really weak at the maul defence. They conceded the second most tries from mauls. Again, keeping in mind they played South Africa where they conceded like 4. So that's a lot across the 3 games. So that influences the stats for sure. But they're still playing that kind of high passing game under Pivac. Not quite Ireland level, not quite craziness like Japan, but they like to chuck the ball around. But interestingly, some of their best results have been when they've kicked it a wee bit more than when they've been passing it. Like against Scotland where they won in the Six Nations, a close loss against France, that first close loss against South Africa, that second game against South Africa where they won, and then the win over Argentina. Wales had a decent amount of kicks, not just pure numbers of kicks, but they were opting for the boot more often instead of maybe for a pass or for a run. So yes, I've been going on about that for ages. So penalties conceded, their third, man. There's a bunch of bad numbers here. It's been a really, really poor year for Wales. I wouldn't be surprised for Gats to kind of rein in some of the passing and look to get a bit more structure in his game. That would surprise me not one bit. But like I said, it hasn't been all kind of plain sailing for Gats in the last couple of coaching gigs he's taken over. But we certainly know what he's done with Wales before. So I think if you're a Welsh fan, for the most part, you're going to be pretty chuffed that the more familiar and more successful Warren Gatland is going to take over instead of Wayne Pivac in what has been a pretty kind of poor year. As I said in recording this, I'm still not sure what's the future with Eddie Jones. He's also apparently on the chopping block, so we'll wait and see if that gets confirmed. But for now, Gatland is back. Pivac is out. What do you guys reckon? Is he going to make all the difference? Is it going to be much improved from Wales? They got like Ireland first up in the Six Nations, so it's not starting off easy and very little prep time, but Warren Gatland knows Wales inside and out, so he shouldn't need a heck of a lot of prep time. Get his assistants in place, and there, we'll see. What do you reckon? Is it going to improve, or do you reckon it's not all Pivac's fault? There's other factors at play? You guys let us know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.